Hi, welcome to the first session of this year's BAPT conference. Just to introduce, we've got Dario Nardi here to give his session today. He's obviously one of the best known presenters in the type community. He focuses on neuroscience, personality, games, body-mind practices. He's the author of several books, including Neuroscience of Personality, Jung on Yoga, The Magic Diamond. He uses EEG for brain imaging, and he created the CPA, a validated assessment of 8 Jungian functions. This particular session is sponsored by Personality Hacker, and you can find out more about them. Thank you for that support, Personality Hacker, and you can find out more about them by clicking the link in the conference website. So over to you, Dario. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, all of you, for coming, and Richard for the introduction. And I see a number of familiar faces here. It's great to be back, even virtually. And just to give a shout out to the June in-person conference in London, I will be there too, God willing. Yes, so looking forward to that, to be in person again. Okay, so without further ado, let's share the screen here, and then actually launch this so that it's actually a slideshow. Yeah. Okay, there we go. How does that look, Richard? It's good. Okay. So practicing type in virtual learning spaces. This is something that I've been working with the company here in Norway for the past year plus. And so I certainly have to give a shout out to them and to their customers that we're working with. Yeah, so we want to know, like, what is a virtual learning space and what does this look like and how does it relate to type? So we'll do a little bit of that background. I'm going to show you 3 examples. I think the second one, I may show you most of it. The first and the third, we'll just take a look at about half. So 5 to 7 minutes of video that's pre-recorded. I could take you through it live, but and it would look better live. But then that also does not allow us to backtrack. So we might want to do that. And just some lessons and challenges of using type in the space, virtual spaces, and then maybe what's coming next. And I honestly have put here like a note to myself at every point, time to wrap up, to make sure we have time for Q&A. But I think we can probably, if anyone's really hungry for it, they'll stay a few minutes past the hour. So yeah. So what is a virtual learning space? So this is using a laptop, a mobile device, a tablet, desktop computer, whatever it is, something that allows clients, employees, students to navigate through real life situations in a safe digital environment. And I've actually been working on this on my own for many years when I was teaching, but I didn't have the tools available to really make it 3D and game-like. So I think that now the infrastructure of the internet is really allowing that in this, what is it, first, second, third decade of the 21st century. So these environments include, 3D spaces, characters, voices, sound, tactical choice points with consequences. They are not choose your own adventure, if you've heard that term before. There's not like, in every scene there are 3 choices, and each of those choices leads to 3 more choices that are all different, and so forth and so on, to 10 million choices. It's not like that. So we follow the principles of narrative. There are side quests, and there's a lot of tactical and diplomatic options as we move through this, and whatever it might be. Also, some stuff that's simply directly about type, but is not a scenario per se. It's simply bringing type into a 3D format. We really want to give people an authentic experience. Authentic, still the technology is not where it could be. I would say the pictures you see here are actually the quality that people get, if not a little bit better. But the video I'm going to show you is compressed, so it's not quite as nice. In fact, I put the lower picture there because that's she has a lovely British accent, that gal, and all of the housing there, if you might recognize it, is somewhere from England. So there we. In fact, a lot of the characters, regardless of their actual ethnicity, have British accents, just like at the movies. So we want to be faithful to the principles of narrative, to human psychology, to the concept of gifts differing, to this idea that the client I'm working with, Safer, has about learning from failure. So we're not giving examples where you're supposed to take the right answer all the time and you get tested on doing the right answers. We really want people to be able to go through these 2 or maybe even 3 times, and to dare to go through even deliberately making the choice that is rude or obnoxious or tactically unwise, whatever it is, to see and experience the consequences without suffering for those. So there's a lot of stuff that we put into it. And of course, the gift differing part is part of type, and we have reflection points too, that, and helping people get to their best fit type. So how does type play a role? Well, one is that all of the characters must represent and be faithful to, and this is what happens, a demographic distribution for the client. That's like ethnic, gender, rank, role, geography, and so on, as well as personality differences across their organization. So one of the things I've done is I've created about 20 different characters that have all 16 types, and there's a couple of sensing thinking types that appear twice. And the idea is that the players will learn type basics. They have a chance to go through an interactive type assessment, and which is both, there's an automated element, and there's also a coach or facilitator that meets people for what we call a read back here, but it helps a person, face to face in the ethical style. And of course, experience personality differences playing out among people. And this is important because I think particularly in some industries, like maybe industrial or blue collar environment, any kind of, I think, big corporate environment, there might be this idea that the supervisor or manager is going to be like an ESTJ, sort of like in charge and bossy and all those stereotypes we have about ESTJ. Of course, what happens when you have an ENTP manager or an INFP manager? Like, what does that look like? And so what I've been working on is the training modules, and we have all of the types represented. The training modules actually on the surface relate to things we call like openness, care, learning. Like there's a number of these, but secretly they are actually related to the Enneagram. Like care is Enneagram 2 and learning is Enneagram 5 and so on. So for those of you who are Enneagram fans, that was an interesting task to integrate all of this. So in many things that I wanted to do, not in the one I'm going to demo for you, because the introductory one is going to be mostly sensing thinking types. But then the later chapters that they go through, the scenarios, we often have opposite types paired with each other. So the ESFJ manager with the INTP junior technician, or the ESTP and INFJ who are brought together to work together. And of course, they're going to have some conflicts. So that's all of that is built in nicely. And here's just an example of some of our characters. Very stylish, you can see. Yeah, we do have a very limited wardrobe of civilian clothing at the moment, but we got it, including dresses. There's a few of those. So because that's my hope is, and theirs as well, to take it more than just being an industrial environment, that we can really do this kind of stuff anywhere. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to play. Now, I could take you into the online system and we could play these, but then we wouldn't be able to jump ahead or rewind. So instead, I recorded them, and we're not going to go through all of it, but you'll get an idea. So the idea of exploring personality type through simulation. And this first one is the idea of taking a sorter, like a type assessment, not the Myers-Briggs officially, but the one that I use and that we use here, which is actually based a lot on temperament and interaction styles as well as type. But neither here nor there. The idea is it helps you down narrow down to 3 likely types. And we discovered some interesting things along the way, some lessons, which I will discuss when we get there. But for the interim, let's take a look at this video. And gosh, there's so many windows open, including windows that shouldn't be open. Okay, and then one window hiding behind the other. I noticed that Apple, in its desire to cram the screen with more and more things, leaves less and less space to actually grab the windows that you're working with. Okay, so we will launch this, and then I'm going to briefly stop and reshare. And okay, QuickTime Player. It's all going to go black for a second. There we go. So I'm going to speed it up a tiny bit, because of course people can play at whatever speed they like. And let's take a look.
Hello, I'm Lakshmi.
And I'm Dave.
We will help you locate your best fit personality profile. We will go through a set of 25 questions with a chance to sort the results after.
It will take about 15 minutes.
You may wonder, we take this profiler. Well, the results are private to you only. And the results are about common ways we function. All profiles are equally valuable.
And through the rest of your training, you will get tips based on the results here.
As you'll see, many questions will ask what you prefer. For example, which hand do you prefer to use? Your left hand
or your right hand? Please click your choice now.
So you can see that we're
Thanks.
bringing in classic stuff
As you
here.
go, choose options most in line with your preferences. Focus on what is most typical or comfortable, rather than what is some ideal.
There is no right or wrong answer. And when two options seem very similar, trust your gut reaction and pick the one you like first.
Okay. Shall we start? First question. Are you more outgoing and talkative? Or more alone and quiet?
I'm going to select alone and
Next,
quiet.
do you prefer to motivate someone with gentle suggestion or using a clear explanation?
And question 3, would you say you are known more as sensible?
Or as more innovative? Okay. Now, do you prefer to make decisions according to objective criteria or decide according to your values?
And I think you get the idea. It goes through 25 questions there. And the characters sort of talk back and forth. And most of the time, there's not always, but like 80% of the time, they say what matches for their type. So that Lakshmi on the left was ENFP, personality for that avatar, that character. And then Dave here is ISTJ. And there's actually a cute little thing. I want to make sure I mention this.
Great job so far. Thank you.
We are 20% of the way through.
Of course, notice in the ISTJ is letting you know a benchmark of how far you've made it into the process, whereas Lakshmi is telling us that we're doing a great job. So as we get more towards the end, let's see. So here we'll get to, there we go. We'll do.
Comfortable providing input and options.
Or are you more okay telling people what to do?
Welcome back. Let's explore your results.
Out of 16 possible types, let's look at the top 3 best matches.
Yes.
By the way, by our calculations, your first ranked type is fairly clear. However, one of the other types might fit better.
Yep. Now here's a menu of the top 3 types. Click on any of them to see more.
And then the idea is, of course, I answered for myself. So this is what I got. And I'll take a look at INTJ. And this one here is not particularly sophisticated. We actually have integrated in the whole system, like nicer presentation at this point, but I wanted to keep it all in one place for the demo here. The person can take a look, and then they can return to the menu, and eventually they'll get to a spot where they can read more in depth about all 3 of them, and then they select, and then they go into a live session with the real human facilitator to do this. So that's a little recap of this very basic idea of like taking a pencil paper assessment and actually giving some kind of form to it. And then what are some of the lessons that we learned along the way with this? And I don't want to play from current slide. Okay, which it actually just didn't do. Or did it? No, it did. Okay. So some other things is that we tried with no virtual coaches, like just having questions on the screen, with one virtual coach or with two. And people were by far, and this was across type preferences, preferred to have two people. And then the idea is to make them different, to have different energy. They're by different type. They're also, one is male and one is female. They're different ethnicities. And if you look at their uniforms, you'll notice also that they look like they have different job roles. So the idea is within the organization, whether they're managers or, whether they're actually for multinational corporations, they could be in Brazil or Nigeria or Calcutta or wherever it is. So we really need to have people from all over the world. And one of the things we found was important is that people are less patient on the web than in real life. People will come to a live workshop or even a Zoom workshop that has a live person on it, and they'll hang around. But if you've ever been to Instagram or YouTube or something like that, TikTok, people's attention spans, I mean, we thought, what is it? Gen X had a little bit shorter attention span, and millennials even shorter. And now the Gen Z is like, 1 minute, 20 seconds maximum or something. So it's like, we have to keep people engaged in some way, to break things into parts, to give them a sense of how far they've gone, and just to sort of like keep the pacing up. This one is the simplest that we did. I'm starting with the simplest thing, and it is a little bit tedious, but people don't mind going through it once. We realize when they want to retake it, they probably want to ask different questions even, but we haven't gotten to that point. Also, I stick with, and I highlighted this stuff at the beginning because it's just a reminder, regardless of what environment we're in, that we still want to hold to the ethical basis of type and how to think about preferences and so on. That we're not taking a test that's going to tell you who you are. So that's why, again, just like I've done for a long time, offer 3 type codes. And then they choose that one to focus on, to go into a live session with the human facilitator where they're free to also change their type. Another thing that we found is that voice was very important. Truly imagine those characters with different voices. The personality is conveyed a lot. Choose the wrong voice and the character sounds like a completely different personality. Somebody did just as sort of a test, took the Lakshmi character and gave her an upper class British accent, which did not work at all. I'm like, that person would never be in this job role. And needless to say, she did not sound like an ENFP in any way either. So unfortunately, there's lots of options among Australian voices, and a lot of Australian voices sound like perceiving types. So that worked pretty well for us. And this could be more interactive than what we're doing. But again, I just want to show a sense of what this looks like. So let's take a look at the second example. And this one here is practice profiling. So thank you again to Personality Hacker for sponsoring this event. And something that they do is that they train people both in online prep and I've been to one of their live events, which is really like a 1 week long training in profiling others. So taking people through a semi-structured, process of helping people to discover their type through asking questions and asking why and digging and so on. And I thought, wouldn't it be great for people to do more than like try and type their friends when there's no way to really get feedback immediately that, yes, you've typed them correctly. And certainly not like typing celebrities. We're going to one of the web gurus who is going to say like, oh, Bill Clinton is, and then they give some type that's like completely no. So well, let's create an environment where you can experiment with asking questions and listening to the results and seeing how the different ways that people respond. So let's take a look at that video. And I don't want to accidentally close our window here. There we go. And this one I really enjoy. You all of you, by the way, you can test your own type skills to just sort of have a sense of who these folks might be. And I'm going to speed it up. I know they sound a little bit funny sped up, but I think that extra 25% makes it easier just in our limited time. Welcome to this practice profiling session. Your task is to interview two people to learn their best fit four-letter personality type codes. Each one is a different type. You will have a chance to ask up to 12 questions. How quickly and accurately can you profile them? Here are 3 general hints. First, consider that two people can provide a contrast. Second, pay attention to broad preferences, not just superficial details. In general, how are they orienting their attention and making decisions? Third, people may talk about growing beyond their type, what they've learned in life. I hope those hints help along the way. You can get more specific hints to help you profile better. Yeah, and I'm going to show you the version in this session without hints. You are profiling 2 young people, Sven and Lakshmi, at their workplace, an engineering firm. They look relaxed and comfortable when you meet them. Let's get started.
Hi. It's great to meet you. I'm Lakshmi. And this is...
Sven. Hello.
This is going to be so much fun.
I hear you have some questions for us.
Yes, we want your questions.
Let's start with a few warm-up questions to get a feel for these two. How are you feeling today?
I rolled out of bed as normal.
Gee. How deep do you want me to go? I am feeling positive about life. But I'm waiting for the cherry on top.
Do you have a favorite food and why?
What a hard question.
Okay, I'll go first. Maybe this sounds weird. It probably does. I like ham and cheese. I don't even need the bread, though that's convenient. So I wouldn't call it a sandwich. When I was a kid, my mom would leave ingredients for me after school, but I wasn't sure of the right way to make ham and cheese, and I'm very picky when it comes to bread. You can probably see where this is going.
So yes, now me. I love all of the foods I haven't eaten yet. I want to have escargot and frog's legs when I go to Paris someday. And eat real Chinese food in China. Sven has his sandwiches and I have my sandwiches.
Are you more messy or organized?
Oh, no. You've discovered my weakness already.
Do you want the smartass answer? What does organized even mean? Mentally, I'm hyper-organized. But on the outside, I probably look pretty messy.
So I have this theory that people who keep busy organizing are actually a big mess on the inside, and they must stay neat in order to stay sane.
Why are we meeting?
Oh, I like this question. I'm always curious to learn more about myself.
I'm here because Lakshmi sold me on the idea of a personality profiling session.
Okay, what do you have next for us?
Where did you grow up and what did you like most about it?
I grew up in various places. I don't know how many. Well, 2 or 3 I guess. But it seemed like a lot. My family is pretty big with a lot of comings and goings, older and younger siblings, aunts and uncles. Oh, what did I like about it? It was entertaining. Everyone is so odd in their own way.
I grew up in a small town. That's probably the best way to define it. The mentality was definitely small town. People tend to know each other's business. I didn't mind it so much, which probably wasn't the best thing. Being in college in a big city exposed a lot of options.
What does your perfect day look like?
The internet and sandwiches. And it would be fairly odd if I wasn't in the picture too. And add my stereo system. And beer.
My perfect day is roaming around a foreign city that I know almost nothing about except a list of promising places like the best noodle restaurant. And an umbrella. I've learned about rain the hard way.
In 5 years from now, where do you see yourself?
Well, probably the same job I'm doing now, except hopefully on a more interesting project and making more money. Does that sound cynical?
Okay, I have no idea. I mean, there are so many options in life. Right. In fact, I must say, it would be sort of terrible if I could see the future. When I think about it, we spoil the surprises.
Who is someone you admire?
Why would I admire someone? We're all just people.
Why does this feel like a trick question?
Okay, if I must, I guess I admire my grandmother because she has had such an amazing life story. And my dog. Because dogs lead such simple lives.
Yeah, I agree. I'd say someone dead, or who nobody knows. Because those feel like safer options because it's a bit harder for the person to let me down.
So we're getting to the fun questions. Yes.
What's something that tends to really bother you?
Normal people really concern me or scare me. Isn't there a cost for being so normal?
Let me put it this way. When I need to scream into a giant black plastic bag because I am surrounded by idiots. I'm speaking conceptually, of course. It's why I enjoy heavy metal. Anyway, I'm finding ways to appreciate how people are interesting. Hopefully that wasn't oversharing.
What's a key lesson you've learned from life?
Lakshmi, can you please go first for this one?
Sure. I've learned it's okay to actually care for the people I care about. So I once signed up for one of those card services to send people cards on special occasions, because apparently I only think of sending cards at random times. And I filled out the whole thing with people's names and birth dates and stuff, and sometimes I even typed out something to say and then I'd never press send. It just felt fake. But I know it's not. Most people actually like receiving cards, except Sven here. He's like me. Only random cards, please.
I'm glad, Lakshmi, that you told a whole story. I needed time to think. So, I've learned that a decent amount of passive income is very nice. And recently, that spending time with my family isn't as bad as I remembered it. Well, it can be, but it also has a lot of upsides, including home-cooked meals.
What's it like to be you?
I didn't come with a user manual and am still trying to figure that out. But I can say, if I only can find out the answer after I die, then I will have gotten it totally wrong.
I feel like I'm 5 different people. Does that make sense? I thought about it once. I pondered over my whole life. And I found 5 of me. That was a really weird experience.
Before we finish, do you have something to add?
No, not really. But thank you. This was pretty interesting.
I just want to say this was so much fun. I love thinking about people's personalities. And I'm really curious to hear the results.
Okay, let's wrap up the interview and decide their type profiles. Now is your chance to verify how well you understood these 2 people. What do you believe is Lakshmi's best fit 4-letter type code? Of 16 possible options, were narrowed down with the menu of 7 here that are more likely: ESFP, ENFP, ENTP, ESFJ, ISTJ, INFP, ENFJ. So, I mean, I did mention it in passing because she appears in the previous one as well. But anybody want to hazard a guess? Did all of you see the evidence for, was it sensing or intuiting? Or rather, I should say extroverted sensing or extroverted intuiting, introverted sensing, introverted intuiting. Remember, she said things like she would hate the idea of knowing what the future was. And a lot of it was interest in unfamiliar activities. And if they were something familiar, like eating escargot in Paris, then that was actually idealized rather than an actual behavior. So I think it reminds us of a lot of different elements, and there's a lot of type dynamic stuff here. Well, she does come across as more extroverted, more with imagination and creativity, making decisions according to values and identity, and having a more open-ended, adaptable style. So we will say ENFP.
Fantastic. ENFP is me. Great job profiling my personality.
And what do you believe is Sven's best fit four-letter type code? Again, we're shown 7 options: ISTJ, ISTP, INTP, ENTP, ESFJ, INFP, INTJ. Anyone want to hazard a guess with some evidence? No, I know, Elena, you already know the answer. So yeah. And in fact, I wouldn't say it's not just about having the answer, that you gave a really good explanation for all the evidence that would point towards at least just 2, but most likely 1 out of the options. And a lot of it goes back to even John Beebe's work and where do the functions fit within the pattern of the type. But if folks want to use the chat section, so here folks, oh good, you're already thinking, okay, so we have Sven is either ISTJ or INTP. So because he said he was hyper organized on the inside, I would say ISTP, INTO. I assume that meant, since O is next to P, that would be INTP from Ann Holm. Alexander H, INTJ, Ann Holm, INTP. Oh, there you are. Okay. Angelina Bennett, ISTP, Shane Kesey, INTP. That cheese thing's confused me. Yeah, he's confused about cheese. So I don't think he's really has SJ preferences, because he wouldn't be confused about cheese in the same way. Like on the way, he has like a neurotic relationship with food. And so which types tend to be more likely to have such a relationship with food? Obsession with ham and cheese, right? That's funny. Sounded more S than N. And of course, everybody has both sensing and intuiting. And the question is where and what kind. We could also say that he might have, what is it, trickster extroverted sensing. That could be it too. He has chart the course energy. Yes, and we're going to see the bonus round to actually deal with that. The comment about the answer said N to me. Yes. Looked a bit like my husband though, too, INTJ. So let's see what I had to say here with this myself. Across as more of an introvert. He has abstract and creative intelligence. Notice, by the way, the number of times he refers to defining something. That's quite a common theme. And even if he doesn't use the word define, it's about what do you mean by this? And doesn't give a straight answer to things. It doesn't give a straight answer to things. Yes. He mentions principles and criteria. And he has an open-ended and adaptable, you might even say messy style. So we're going to go with INTP.
My hat is off to you. My type preferences are indeed INTP. What more can I say?
So there's a couple of cool sort of confounding things here, and I would understand why someone would say INTJ or ISTP. They have, I mean, they're quite similar to each other type-wise. They're only 1 letter off in terms of preferences. Also, he's in like a blue-collar background here, so it's not like the stereotypical physics professor or something like that. As we'll see when we look at subtype, which is the bonus round, that his subtype is going to make him look like he's more chart the course, which would then lead us to think about INTJ and ISTP. So I would say if you got one of those 3 types, that's great. Like that's what we're aiming for. So congratulations to us. We got a perfect score, and we're now ready to try the type coaching module, and you can return to try more profiling sessions anytime. But welcome to the bonus round. We're not quite done yet. How about we try this bonus round to figure out these 2 folks' subtype? There are 4 options. Here's a quick recap. Dominant, normalizing, creative, harmonizing. Dominant is more assertive and in a leader role. Normalizing is more specialized and in a supporter role. Creative is more exploratory and in a rebel role. Harmonizing, more empathic and in a relator role. So let's hear from these 2. And you ask, how has your career and job shaped you?
Oh wow. This job really forces me to use my brain. A lot. I feel myself getting smarter every day.
Well, I'm that gnome in the background that works at the computer or electronics box with the levers and buttons.
He so is. Sven is such the mild-mannered brainiac.
Ha. Little does anyone know.
Oh, another thing. As a manager, I find I need to stand up for myself, just be myself in a friendly but determined way. Just walk up and say hello, what's going on?
Yeah. I'm not a people person per se, but I like helping the company prosper. And it's really nice when so many details around me are taken care of. So I can just be free to think and try stuff.
So what's my subtype?
Dominant, normalizing, creative, or harmonizing. She doesn't mention so much about harmonizing with others, not much about creativity, nor serving a larger organization. What she does talk about is being a manager and standing up for herself.
You get me.
And mine?
So if she were dominant, what is his subtype? Dominant, normalizing, creative, or harmonizing. He doesn't talk about so much relating with others or creative interests. He doesn't mention being in a leadership role or working with leaders. What he does mention is wanting to improve the life of the organization. So normalizing.
You win a fine cigar to go with my hat tip.
You finished the profiling session, even if you were off by a few things. Great job, and hope to see you again. So that was a fun experience designing that and taking people through that. And what I think is really interesting actually is not just going through it, but having the conversation afterwards. So I have to thank Elena for hosting the forum space and inviting people to come and watch this. This was like a couple months ago, and giving all of their comments and feedback. And actually what really heartened me is, I mean, probably over half the people came to the same conclusion, and everybody within just a letter or two, or within one letter. But the understanding of type from different perspectives, not just the preferences, but the 8 function model, and in some cases temperament and interaction styles, and BB's roles. So it just reminds us that what goes into creating an experience of a person is going to be more than just the person saying what it is that we're going to expect them to say stereotypically. So what did we learn from this? And there we go. So you're playing the coach or the profiler. Your job, we sort of saw that, is to practice IDing each person's best fit type. Of course, these are virtual people. Profiling 2 people at once. So the style that's usually done, at least with personality hackers, you do 1 person at a time. And I think this happens a lot in organizations. It's either a group of people who come in and they have like a type experience, in the afternoon or something like that, which has a lot of benefits of having a whole group. But I think that'd be a little bit much for a virtual space. On the other hand, if it's just 1 person, then there's not really opportunity for contrast. So let's say a person is debating between ENFJ and ENFP, and I think it would probably help them a lot if they sat next to somebody who actually did have that preference of ENFJ or ENFP. And so they might think, oh, well, right, I'm actually not like this, or I am like this, and that would help them. So we have a contrast, but of course they do have intuiting and perceiving in common. So some things in common, some different. I think unlike a video of a real person, like a celebrity, or just recorded where a person like gets in front of their computer and answers questions and then it's sent to someone, that I control for confounding variables. And we know their best fit types for sure. Now my model might be wrong, or the implementation might be a little bit better, but that's something we can always improve at. It's not like trying to type a celebrity. And you can go through with or without hints. And right now the hints are just around the 4-letter code, the classic Myers-Briggs preferences, but I think we could do eight functions and so on. And I really felt it was important for them to not give stock stereotypical answers. That they give like real people answers, and then we have to work backwards to what is the underlying why and how underneath what's going on with them. So our last one, we're not going to go all the way through it, but it's a step up in terms of interactivity and sophistication. I think we have time to go through half of it. And then I think it's great, because if any of you want to do it in the future, then I'm not going to give it away, like how to solve the scenario. And yeah, so you can play for yourself there. So this is interesting. Jane Kesey asked, did you use quotes from real interviews? Well, yes, to be honest, even though they weren't drawn from one person, I did think of ENFPs and INTPs that I've known over the years, and what are things that they've said, and sort of weave those into it. Yeah, and hearing Dario speak without his mouth moving gives a strange ventriloquism effect. That's cute. Yeah. And we are trying to do more about the delivery of in the body language. It just the technology is still in development, so no reason to rush it. But for many people, this is enough. And in fact, making it more realistic might make it more difficult in some ways. So I think there's pluses and minuses to how it is now. Okay, and the mouse got lost on the screen. And we will then stop here and play a little bit of this one. And again, I don't want to accidentally close the Zoom window. And this is our third example. And let's go with it. Oh, wait, now I don't remember if sorry. Oh, I did share the sound. Okay, that's all good. Okay. And by the way, the scenario is not 27 minutes because I give commentary in it. The actual scenario time is literally half that. It takes about 13 minutes to go through it. And it can be played 3 times, each time a different way. Not a different outcome, but just like along the way, you can choose some a little bit different paths. So this is practicing technology and teamwork skills. Hello, and welcome to this Build Trust simulation. You are a junior mate on the Endurance. You arrived a week ago and are still getting to know your teammates. So far, work is familiar tasks and business as usual. Well, the team is a bit odd and overworked, but aren't most teams? Remember, trust means you believe that your colleagues have good intentions, are capable, and can handle feedback, even if they differ from you in how they do things. And signs of mistrust include suspicion, poor communication, being aggressive or defensive, low motivation, and feeling let down. Your mission: how well can you build trust on your team and avoid a major incident? Let's find out. So the Endurance is an oil and gas rig. Let's meet your teammates for a minute over breakfast to hear what's going on.
Oh, happy morning.
Our trainee here is a bag of sunshine today. But what's new?
It's true. It's beautiful day out. And welcome back, Xiao.
Yes, welcome back.
Thanks. If that clock on the wall is accurate, I had no time off.
I just put in a request to fix it again.
That clock truly tells our story here.
I see the Endurance did not sink while I was away.
Not quite.
I'm surprised. By the way, how is your hand?
What? Oh, that tiny scratch a few weeks ago. It was nothing. I'm fine.
We did not feel short-handed at all.
Thanks to our newest mate here.
I admire that you all put the best face on things.
Now that you mention it, the sharp edges around that piping are still not fixed. Someone will suffer more than a scratch at some point.
Yeah. I feel a little let down that we have to wait and pray.
It's no use. Maintenance just says whatever makes us go away.
We really missed your magic touch, Xiao.
Okay. I'll take a look today and see what I can do.
Hopefully, you now know your team and workplace better. All of you finish eating and start your duties. A video message awaits you from the operations manager, Shoreside.
Hi. Hopefully you are settling in. I will get straight to it. When I assigned you to Endurance, I said their team is short-handed. That's true. But the fact is, I've heard rumors of minor incidents there. It raises a red flag. Operations look pretty clean on paper. But something is surely wrong. You are now my eyes and ears there. Maybe you've formed an impression so far, or soon. Please look into the rumors. But stay quiet. Okay. I will touch base with you again in a few days. We're counting on you to find out what's going on before a major incident occurs. Good luck.
How do you judge the situation so far? There are three options. There is likely some truth to the concern. Let's see what comes up. Whatever the details, rumors, and spying suggest low trust. Let's actively look into it. Or everything is probably fine. Management is often either unaware or in a panic. So we're going to select, well, we could select option 1 because there does seem to be some kind of concern, but it also suggests a passive approach, just seeing what comes up. The second one here is more specific, talking about rumors and spying, that they suggest low trust, and then we ought to actively look into it. And the third one sort of dismisses it and says that it's management that usually has some kind of problem. So let's suggest the second option. And apparently that was good because it briefly flashed green. Now you get a call from your team supervisor, Sanjay, to report to his office. You meet privately with your supervisor, Sanjay.
Ah, there you are. Come in. After a week here, how are you settling in?
We have a great team, so far mostly good. Hopefully I'm meeting expectations. I have some concerns. I don't know. Those are all perfectly viable answers, although I don't know is probably the weakest. Surely you know something so far. You do have some concerns, but on the other hand, not everything is perfect, or is it bad? Hopefully I'm meeting expectations is passive approach, expecting the other person is going to validate us. If we simply say we have a great team, well, you haven't seen a team in action yet, and that's denying that there are concerns. So that really suggests that either it's so far mostly good, or I have some concerns. Both of those will probably take us in the same direction. I'm going to err a little bit on the side of so far mostly good.
It sounds like you're ready for a challenge. Let me tell you, everyone gives you thumbs up as competent and friendly. What more could we ask for? I just wanted to let you know in person.
Okay, I'll do my best. Or you can trust me to fall in with the team. May I ask, I hear there have been some incidents recently, or I have some new ideas I'd like to try out. Well, the first two are not really addressing your mission. The third one is probably the most appropriate, and the fourth one is living in the future. So let's get to these incidents. May I ask, I hear there have been some incidents recently.
Really? Well, let me say, the team has an excellent track record. Some very minor incidents can happen on occasion. Not to brag, but our performance is exceptional. And now we've got you here. That's all for now. Unless you have anything else?
Again, we have options. You can thank him and go. You could ask him to say more about the incidents. We could say that we're unsure who to trust, and we appreciate his guidance and we'll do our best. The first and the fourth are very similar.
You get the idea with that there. I'm going to skip a little bit ahead to the next scene. There's some good stuff here, but it's sort of getting in. And again, the theme of trust here is tying back to Enneagram 6. He sort of says he has some questions for you, and then you leave. Now, please reflect based on this interaction. What is Sanjay's likely impression of you? So mostly positive, neutral, or mostly negative. We didn't watch the whole thing, but this is important. It's like a meta skill, metacognitive skill. It's like, how did you perform? And the correct answer in this is actually based upon how well you did in terms of making green or at least yellow selections rather than red selections. So it's essentially the right answer is, do you understand how well you yourself did this time around? Thanks for reflecting, and it gives some feedback that actually you were doing a good job so far. You have a free hour. Maybe you can learn more about what's going on. What do you do? And we have several options. Probably the smart one would be waiting to talk to the crewmate who injured her hand. But I'm going to show you instead Zhao here as another guy. And you come across senior mate Zhao among some pipes topside. He's busy doing something with his back to you. He's making a clanking noise. You aren't aware of anything on the schedule.
He has a lot of experience. People call him Mr. Fox because he figures out and fixes tricky problems. You've worked with him twice so far. The first time he gave you a handy tip. The second time he called out a mistake you made in front of the team. So, sort of a mixed bag there. So it's up to you based upon, your experience, this bag of experience, how you're going to respond. And our options are interrupt Xiao in order to get some answers, say hello cheerfully and ask if we can chat, look for a different teammate to talk with. Well, he's here now, so I don't think we're going to do the third one. Interrupt him to get answers sounds a little bit too pushy. He doesn't even have our face to us yet. So how about just saying hello cheerfully? And again, it's not like, oh, you must select the right answer. Usually when there's red, yellow, green, red is yes is not a good answer, but yellow and green are both viable answers. They're just which one maybe is, do we think, and sort of working on this particular theme of trust here is going to be the very best, even though the yellow answer is right too. So here he goes, we say that, and he says,
Hi. Yes, I have a short minute. Can I help you with something?
Ooh, variety of things. It's a beautiful day, isn't it? How important is it to follow the standard safety procedures? Or what are the actual rules here for reporting minor incidents? Can I ask, what do you think of Sanjay? The last option, what are you doing?
So this, we go through and he can give some answers to this. We have to figure out why, like what is a good thing. It turns out when we hear from him, he's saying, well, there's a lot of gossip and he needs to keep his head down so he can enjoy the freedom that he has, although a lot of his time is taken up with doing other people's jobs, which he does not appreciate. And it goes on and is similar to the previous scene, and we have a bit of interaction here. Many scenes don't have as many options as these, like 5. We try to keep them to 3 or 4, since that's what seems like people can handle. I feel this one is one last thing I'll show you, and then we'll wrap up.
At this point, Zhao quizzes you with a technical question. Maybe it relates to his work now, or is he testing your competence? Whatever the case, you don't know the answer. How do you respond? You give your best guess and a big smile. Push back, asking why he is testing you. You give a vague answer that could mean several things, or you say you don't know and ask for help about it. Remember, the purpose of this is trust. So let's give the last one. You say you don't know and ask for help.
It's okay if you don't know. It took me years to figure that out. Now, if you don't mind, I'll get back to work here. Unless you want to watch and learn.
So that's a little bit of taking us through a little bit of that and that experience that involves the characters having types. Although you really don't, the characters reoccur in more scenarios. So sometimes their type is not clear until the second or third scenario, or at least going through all of it, do you get a sense of what their type preference might be. In this first one, most of the people had sensing thinking preference of some kind, but not all of them. So let's then, what are some highlights that we learned from this? And play from the current slide. Okay. So they're going through these scenarios. We do encourage people to play multiple times, to solve a mystery, to prevent an incident, to raise their score. They do, by the way, take a quiz afterwards, and the quiz does have personality-related questions in it. And even if the person, the player doesn't remember, all of the ins and outs of type, they should still be attending to the personality of each person and have a sense of how that person will likely interact. Most of the scenarios include people of all 4 temperaments, and we focus on different themes using the Enneagram as a rough guide. And the scenarios take 12 to 25 minutes. Most of them are 20 minutes, but this one happens to be shorter without my narration. And it's really fun to hear people why they answer the way they do, and helpful. And then also the player's maturity level, which is something the company here looks at, makes a difference as well. Because there are some people who can fly through all of these. So a colleague of mine, he said he just puts on his smart decisions hat, and then he goes through and he has no problem passing these scenarios very easily. And then we have other people, we've known other people, and the same as within the organizations, other people who just really struggle to make choices that
are not bad choices. We understand if people make a lot of the quote yellow choices in the middle, because those are still perfectly valid answers, even if we don't think they're the best. But for people who select the red ones, is it because they're trying to provoke? Is it that they're cynical, that there's mistrust in their organization, whatever that is? So really getting to learn a lot. Overall, the lessons and challenges and opportunities is I really love that these simulations can address type, or at least have type as a support feature. That type improves realism, that this is very important, that it steers the writer away from dialogue and behavior that is inconsistent or is just everybody acting the same way. And this can happen particularly with writers, stuff like this, that they just put in the mouth of the characters what they personally think is supposed to be like the official organizational answer, but people don't talk that way. Interviewing people multiple times as I had to develop characters, especially like the ENTP manager, which is another scenario. I went and interviewed an actual ENTP manager, and he phrased things in ways that I just would not say them that way, and yet they made sense in terms of type. The same, there was ESFJ. One of the other, there's three managers. Then the third one, and yet another scenario is an ESFJ, and I just needed to interview an actual ESFJ manager. I think it can also be abused, is pushing sort of simplistic ideas that are not really true to the human spirit. Sorry, that's my introverted feeling 10-year-old coming out there. I do think body language and voice tone matter as much as word choice, and that we're still working on that. One thing that's very frustrating for me is that the animation team, who actually provide the options for animation, they're all male Norwegians, and they only provided me with frat boy body language. I have been asking for almost a year for a wider variety of, say, more feminine body language. They have not delivered. It's just very low priority for them. It makes it particularly challenging to animate some of the characters, especially those who have a feeling preference, especially extroverted feeling. And like I've said before, people have a much shorter attention span on the web. I think that people will treat 20 minutes on the web the same way they'll treat a 2-hour real life workshop. And so we just have to do a lot more. In this choice, people have to make choices at least every minute, and to sort of keep up, and can't allow them to their attention to wander. And then there's so many technical issues that would never happen in a face-to-face real life environment. Oh, I lost my password, I can't talk to you now. No, I'm standing right here. You don't need to have a password to talk to me. So those are some of the things that we're sort of coming to terms with. And what else to expect in the coming years? Many more scenarios and general type tools are possible. I think not just by me, but other people. Going on a lunch date, getting type-specific coaching, trying a classic exercise like Isabel Meyer's zigzag model. I think all of those can be done. I have done brain imaging of players as they go through a scenario. And we see that the brain activity does correlate with engagement, as well as the fixed or growth mindset. This was actually initiated research by other published researchers. When people come to choice points, how do they react? And then I just wanted to show one thing that's fun, that there are AIs like ChatGPT and Midjourney that, by the way, they know about type. If you go to talk to ChatGPT and you ask can you describe for me the typical strengths and challenges of an ENTP in one paragraph, it will provide you with that. And it will be the sum of, or the average of, what is, I think, mostly the Reddit version, exploration of type, which I think for most of us is going to match 90%. You can give one-line visual instructions, and I just wanted to show this in this next thing here. I asked Midjourney AI to create a picture of an INTJ at the office brainstorming ideas. And it produced this in less than a minute. And I really love how the electricity is actually passing from outside to inside, and it's coming around the brain. And it's and then this one on the right here is, I asked, would it create, and both of them, by the way, were supposed to be young males, just to keep it as an average here, to keep that the same.
Young male ENFP at home with dog. I mean, does that not even look like an ENFP? Like, that's just like the stereotype. Both of them just, and again, like Midjourney will offer you 4 options. This was the best of the 4. But it really is remarkable that I didn't have to say anything more than just literally that one sentence, ENFP, and it knows what an ENFP looks like. And of course, there are several looks for ENFP and for all of the types, but there's, I don't know, that's just like, wow, you know, where will type be going in the next 10 years or 20 years? How do you want to get involved? You can look at this later, but basically you'll have access to this, but inquire with me and that's fine. And there's a whole dashboard process and everything if you're interested in that, or if you just want to be involved or you have questions, like, and anyway, just feel free to contact me. And then, yeah, if you want to know more about me or you want my info, if you don't have my personal email, you can get me at service@radiancehouse.com. That's me in Costa Rica there, by the way. And I now have a beard, as probably many of you have noticed, since all the 25, 30 years before this. And at radiancehouse.sellfi.store is where there's more info. Okay, that does it. Also, I want to thank Safer for the focus on type and making this possible. And it's at the beginning, I think, of a very exciting adventure. What will it look like in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? That type can take on a very different shape and yet still carry forward all of the things we love about type at the same time. And that's really what I wanted to share with you today. And true to my style, I didn't leave any room for Q&A, but I'm happy to remain behind for anybody who wants that.